This is the Office Manager Diaries, a podcast all about the highs and the lows of professionals in office management around the world. We'll delve into their career journeys and diaries, where they'll share their stories, tips for success, and things only office managers understand. Enjoy, and please remember to give us a follow. Hello, welcome to the Office Manager Diaries. It's Hannah back with you for another episode, and I'm so excited this week, and you'll understand why as we get chatting, because I am with Emma Martin, People and Workplace Manager in London. Emma and I have history, and I'm sure as we go into this podcast, you're going to find out a little bit more as to our history and how we met. Emma, thank you so much for being on the Office Manager Diaries with me today.
Oh, you're more than welcome. I feel like I owe you, Hannah.
You always say that, and I never think you do, but it's very, very kind of flattering. And maybe Emma will share why she feels like that as we go through the podcast as well. But yeah, as I said, when I asked Emma to do this, I think it was towards the end of last year, and she said yes. It was, one of my most exciting guests that I wanted to make sure we had lined up early on into launching the podcast. So I'm really happy that you're here. It's nice to see your face because it's been such a long time, and we definitely need that wine to catch up in London at some point as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So yes, 100% we need to get that in. So firstly, if you can, Emma, tell us a little bit about your role, where you are at the moment, and how long you've been in the world of office management for, and your career journey in getting there.
Yeah, sure. It's a long one. So I've been in office management for nearly about 7.5 years. I originally worked on reception for a serviced office company, and I think there was maybe like 40 companies in the building. And I worked on a very busy reception there. I found it quite a challenging role because that was kind of my first job out of college. And then I went on to interview for where me and Hana used to work at Berenberg. And I just felt an instant connection with the firm and also with Hana, and I thought it would be great to be her assistant at the time. So that's kind of how I got into office management as such. The firm that I'm currently in now is a private equity firm in the West End of London. It is a startup. I joined the firm as number 6, and now we're around 20 employees. It's a very exciting role. I'd say it's probably one of the most challenging roles that I've been in today. I moved the company from serviced offices into our first London office. And the type of projects that I've done with them is setting up the office management from its foundations, all its suppliers, but also the fit out was very challenging, but also quite fun, was with working with architects and construction rather than traditional kind of D&B, design and build, which was probably one of my biggest projects to date with them.
Yeah. I didn't realise it was a startup, this company. So I thought it was more established than that. So that's quite a growth that you've had in that time.
Yeah, there was literally nothing. So I joined as number 6, and there was no processes, no suppliers. So my first point of call was to establish all the suppliers from, well, stationery, cleaners, IT. So I actually used to run part of the IT, and I set up all the external IT and actually hired our first IT manager into the company, which was super exciting because I had a steep learning curve into IT, which I guess is probably one of the most craziest things I've ever done. And not the most enjoyable, but it was a good experience. And I think I understand how things work better now.
I mean, IT moves so fast, doesn't it? I don't know if you remember, I was an IT manager for an estate agent years ago when I was sort of managing lots of branch secretaries and things. So I used to set up computers, used to build them, set up accounts. I used to be able to code, and I couldn't do any of that now. Like, it's moved. I mean, this was 20 years ago. It's moved on so much. So it is nice to delve into IT, isn't it? But you have to keep in it, don't you, I think, to keep up with it. So what would you say is the most challenging aspect of your role? You mentioned something there around the fit out, but perhaps something else that that's a project finished now, but what would you say is the most challenging part?
I think the most challenging part is trying to manage all the priorities. So I look after the workplace and the office. It's very much established now, so it is quite good. It does run itself. But working for a smaller company, I look after 3 EAs as well. So it's kind of the day-to-day management of them, although they are absolutely super. They're very light touch. And then also now my role has some of the HR aspects as well. So it's just trying to manage all the different priorities and as they come through, what is most important. We also don't have a front of house. So I am really asking a lot from my team. And they are super experienced people to also do front of house as well. So it's kind of managing all the day-to-day items, but then also focusing on the bigger projects, because within our company, we work with OKRs, which are objectives and key results. And because we are a startup, we want to focus on big projects that push the business forward rather than just getting stuck in your mailbox and all your day-to-day work. So it's trying to find that fine line of making sure that the office is running efficiently, that if the coffee machine breaks, I can get that fixed in a reasonable time, as well as running projects, which I did at the back end of last year, was completely change all kind of our performance management review software and the process. And then also trying to look for, say, new suppliers for our stationery, for example. So I think it's just a juggling act of trying to balance it all and obviously give management what they want as well and the business.
Yeah, a constant juggling act. I was saying to Emma just before we started recording that she needs to put herself forward for an office management award. And if you're listening, I think you might agree with that one, because she's very much in a hybrid role with the HR hat on, an office management hat, but also line manager hat. So there's line manager or manager of the year that you might want to go for as well there. Okay, so yeah, I think prioritization is something that so many people struggle with, and I think it's one of the key skills and something that makes you an amazing office manager when you nail that, because the juggling, I've said it before, the distractions in these roles are so high, where you're working on something and then suddenly, like you say, the coffee machine breaks, or there's a leak from the toilets, or there's, no milk, or whatever it might be, and the demands on us are so much more now than they were when I was in office management, because you've got the culture, the well-being elements, the perks in terms of, cans of Coke on tap and this kind of stuff that most offices are seeing these days. So it really is a challenge to juggle. So what are you passionate about within this role and this remit? What really does get you up in the morning?
I love the diversity of the role. Not one day is the same. And for me, in the company that I'm in at the moment, I can really scope my role and work on quite exciting projects because we are still very much a startup. So I can really see myself making impact on the business and the people that we hire and also the team. So I think it's kind of the diverseness of the role. You can really get stuck in anything and everything and really make an impact. And I think that's the thing that kind of gets me out of bed every morning, looking forward, it sounds quite cheesy, of going into the office and seeing my colleagues and working on all these different projects. I mean, not all projects are exciting, especially ones like sourcing, I don't know, payroll providers or something. This is more HR, but yeah, there are some really cool and exciting ones when you feel like you've found a great new supplier and you get great feedback of, oh, wow, they've really changed how the office works. Like our new cleaning company is quite amazing, and yeah, had a lot of great feedback. So that's nice as well to have. It's not all juggling priorities and getting things moving or things and things breaking.
No, I think diversity is the thing that drives a lot of people into these roles. And it's really nice to hear that you are getting that good feedback, because that doesn't always come in these positions either. People just expect you to keep the lights on and keep things ticking over, and don't always recognize and appreciate the effort that you go to in order to do that, particularly because of the diversity and how many responsibilities are in this role. So it's really good that, and even when you say it sounds cheesy, but seeing your colleagues, like, that makes the role yours, right? Because that's why you're probably good at what you do, because you enjoy going in, supporting people, creating that environment and satisfying them and helping them to just get on and do their job. So I think I would wholeheartedly agree with you that, there's a degree of passion in it for me there as well. So now is the time when we ask you to share a true story from your office manager career and diary, or what we call the "you won't believe it" but. So what can you share from a page in your diary that was perhaps, quite an experience for you?
Um, I think one of the things that, I mean, there's many, but one of the things that I think really sticks with me is we was in lockdown during COVID, a lot of working from home, and I was in the middle of a fit out project, and obviously things changed throughout that project. We had to go down to half a workforce because of the COVID restrictions. So it was a very challenging project to try and source materials, but also try and stay on time, and also try and get people in the new office. And at that time, I think it was like the first lockdown. I was also petrified of COVID as well because of the news. And I was driving in and out of London in my little car, thinking, well, I was driving probably about 2 hours each way. So I was quite exhausted just to check that the site was on track, that the project manager was happy that there was any issues. And I was just working at home on the dining room table next to my boyfriend. I don't know why we ever worked on the dining room table together, because it just didn't work with calls, but we did. I got a call from somebody quite senior within the company, and they called me and they just said, you don't care about the office. It's an absolute state. I don't even know what's going on. And I think it really hit me. I was in floods of tears. I've just never had anyone say this to me before. But actually it's funny now, because we do this, me and this person, we do actually laugh about it, that he didn't see me driving in and out of London and actually really caring about the office. But I guess it also did kind of kick me a little bit to try and actually reevaluate, because maybe I did get a little bit complacent at that time, and it still sticks with me now. I don't ever want to receive a call like that again. So I guess, yeah, as and when you see things, make sure you fix them. Don't just leave them. Or if they can't get fixed, make sure you communicate it and try and keep the office as tidy as possible, because you don't want one of those calls.
But at the time, it sounds like you were managing your new office site and the old one. Is that right then? Yeah. So you
Yeah,
had two premises.
yeah, it was that day when we closed up our old office, at least was coming to an end, but we didn't really know the seriousness of COVID. I know other organisations kind of shut down before us, but I went in because a few people said, oh, I'm not feeling quite comfortable getting on the train or the tube. And I went to kind of the senior management and just said, look, I think we need to close the office today. But our office was coming to a close within a few months. So we actually had to pack up the whole office in that one day. But there was still stuff at that office. There was still stuff at the new office. The new office was an absolute mess because we were going through, a fit out. So everything was a mess.
It's like the unprecedented times, though, isn't it? No one had ever been through anything like that before, let alone, again, it's the office manager is looked upon to just put that cape on and just be the hero that just goes, yeah, I know exactly what we need to do. And here's an action plan and I'll get it all sorted. And don't you worry, it's going to be smooth as, and I think it's probably a testament to you because you'd been there for a while and it's the first time that they've seen that kind of, chaos, if you don't mind me wrapping it up as that, where it wasn't normal for you. So they're like, what was going on? So it probably speaks volumes as to your, work ethic and your organization prior to then. But then, yeah, when shit hits the fan, they notice. But that also means that you're doing your job very well when you are doing it well. It's one of those funny ones, isn't it? If the lights go out, they're like, where's Emma? And they notice straight away. So, but otherwise they're just like, oh, it just all happens quite magically. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. Yeah. I mean, these roles are so emotional at times. So now, if you can, please share with me your highs, your wins and success moments where you're really proud and you're really satisfied and know that you have done a good job.
I guess, yeah, I mean, there's quite a few. I think when we worked at Berenberg together, obviously seeing the business grow and the team grow, that was a massive success, and being able to run I think it was at the time there was 3 floors, and then we took on a new building, and running all that fit out, and then moving different teams over to another building and seeing that process all the way through, from searching for buildings all the way from choosing the fit out company and kind of executing the fit out. I think that's probably one of my career highs, of moving like 110 people over to the office from a little old receptionist on the front desk. I think fit out for me has got to be probably one of the most challenging but most rewarding projects, and one of my career successes. The current place where I work at the moment, as I said before, is we work very differently to design and build. They very much want to carve out how the office looks. So that is very challenging in itself, going through a traditional procurement route of tendering to architects, then trying to tie in like workplace strategy, then trying to source the furniture separately. It's very, very challenging. And when someone has a very strong vision of what they really want the office to look like and to feel, that again, that can get quite emotional and it can get very personal. So be able to execute one of a project like that, which we did when we moved from service office into our new offices, and when we have some of our clients in, they always show them around the building, and when we're hiring as well, they always show them around the floor, and it's quite nice as well. Sometimes the guys might say, oh, this is Emma who brought together this office. So that I guess for me, yeah, that's a real highlight. And I guess just recently, sorry, I'm going off on tangents here, I completed a HR diploma, my level 5 in CIPD, which took me 2 years to do, with a full-time role as well. I need to actually, but yeah, recently completed that. So that was a good achievement for, I guess, my new HR pieces.
Yeah. I didn't realise you'd done the CIPD. That's brilliant, because yeah, there's a lot of work involved in those. Not something I ever have any aspiration to do, just FYI. But I steer, as you know, you may remember, I steer well away from HR. But I congratulate you for doing it and wanting to do it. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, you're right, because fit outs are, I feel the same, like they're so challenging, but I think it's a way of really showcasing the best of you in terms of your organization skills, but also how you communicate and manage upwards and take instructions, because there's so much involved in it. But I also think it's how you get to know the business really well when you do an office move, whether it's an internal shuffle or an external, full-blown office move. I think it is when you really get to understand the business and you get to know people by name, because you're just, right in the mix of it. But also, in a bit of a selfish way, it really does highlight who you are and what you do for the company. So it's great they're still acknowledging that when they bring people around and say, this is Emma's doing. So yeah, I would be very proud too. Okay, so we've spoken about your highs. So now share for us any lows in your career, any difficulties, difficult moments, conversations, challenges that you have had that you haven't already shared with us so far.
There's quite a few as well. My biggest dislike of office management is office moves, like reshuffles. I think it's really hard to, the project planning I enjoy, and it's good to get your team involved with that as well to make them feel a part of it. But when you're having to like work weekends to reshuffle around, especially some of the moves that we did were so large. It was like, was it 100 people in one weekend or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, Berenberg, we had a tracker. Do you remember the management information pack tracker, where we showed how many moves we'd done in like a quarter? I think we used to measure it on, so every 3 months, how many meetings we'd held, how many events, because there are events left, right, and centre, external and internal. What else did we track? Joiners, leavers, transfers. And I still have some of the data now. And we did something like 5 or 6 moves in a quarter, and we moved 190 people in that time. Some of them were like 5-person moves, some of them, well, over 100 people. But it was a crazy time. We were working most weekends. IT hated us because we would have to be the ones that took the bad news to them, often at short notice as well, because everyone wanted everything done yesterday, saying, we've got to move. Who wants to work this weekend? The only saving grace was they got paid overtime for it. But yeah, that was a challenge.
Yeah. So office moves is probably not one of my most enjoyable things. So in my current role, before we had an IT manager, I used to run the IT. So I set up from finding an external providers, bringing them on board. I then used to have to so I set up our single sign-on application, and it was quite stressful. I had a really tight deadline for it. I'm not technical, so I had to spend like days and days and days reading articles of how to try and set this up, and then also try and work on a tight timeline because we only had certain hours with this external company. So I think IT management, I know this doesn't directly fall under the hat of, say, maybe office management, maybe more hybrid. I think even that, I remember one evening we moved into the office. I said, nope, I think we can save money. I will put the screens on the desks. And there was only actually 9 screens. And I really wish I didn't say this, because I remember my friend calling
me. You're crazy.
On a Friday night saying, are you still coming out for drinks? Are you going to come? Are you going to come? And I remember just being under this desk, couldn't cable it properly, and I was having really bad problems. I couldn't get the screen to turn on, and I think I started to well up a little bit, because I was like, I don't even know why I'm doing this. Why am I here? But you kind of have to like pull yourself together and just like, come on, like if you aren't going to do it, then no one else is going to do it. And look, it's not forever, so just do it. And I think one of the other ones, Hannah, was when we were working at Berenberg. It was very early on at my time at Berenberg. We had to sort this cupboard of archive filing in like a roller thing. So we had
it was the research library.
Yes.
Wasn't it? It was the roller racking. I don't know if anyone listening has ever had roller racking systems in the past, but yeah, research were hoarders. Let's just say that, just to give you an idea of how much crap they had. And we had to take the roller racking down, didn't we? And then we were expanding the desk space, right? So yeah, carry on.
Yeah, clearing out that cupboard, that was probably not one of my favorite times as well. But I think you have to do all these kind of things, because it was actually funny in the offsite which we had on Friday. There was a picture of me with like a hard hat on in construction, and they were like, this was Emma when she was on the top of a brand new building. She's worn many hats. And I think that's true about the office manager. If you like that, you get to wear all these different hats, and I think you just have to embrace it, and then you just laugh back on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because you were literally wearing a hard hat, but you do go from building sites, and I often make the joke that I don't think I'd have been in as many male toilets as I have to date if it wasn't for being in office and facilities management. So yes, we wear many hats, from plumbing to IT to HR to health and safety, building manager types and all sorts. So okay, so you touched on it a little bit there, actually, sort of leaning on to the next question, and you've shared some tips so far already in some of the conversations we've had. But what would you say successful office management looks like for you? And is there any advice that you can give to people listening on how to get there, how to be successful in?
Yeah, I think to be a good, successful office manager, I think it really starts with understanding the business and what is it exactly that the business like wants to achieve. And I think then that filters down into obviously the office manager's priorities. But I think it's about having, we all say this, having good suppliers, making sure that you're checking in with them regularly, that you have good relationships with them to fix any things that might be going a bit off piece, and making sure that the office kind of runs in the background seamlessly, and that everything, this all sounds very ideal, doesn't it? Everything is working as it should be, and you're addressing issues as and when they come up, and you're engaging with people, that if they tell you the printer's broke or the toilet tap is not working, that you actually address it, you follow up with communication, so that people really feel that they've been taken on board, and just making sure that the office looks as good as it can. and just enabling people to like do their day-to-day job without having to worry that, oh, the air conditioning is not going to work, or I'm not going to go and make a coffee, I'll just go out of the office because that coffee machine never works. I think it's just about making things seamless and just being personable and friendly and trying to fix it all together. I think one of my biggest tips that I've only learned, I guess, within the last few years, and maybe this comes from working in a smaller organization, is networking. You really don't know the power of your network. So I'm really grateful for anyone who gives me sometimes like half an hour just over a coffee. I recently met with a new office manager at another firm, and they gave me a really good contact from print suppliers, because we were basically, our deck binding went from 10 up to like 70 overnight, and our poor assistant couldn't do this, so someone gave me a local printer and they could do that, so they were absolutely amazing. So I think my biggest advice for anyone, even if you're working in a big organization, is to network and speak with other office managers, because sometimes it's very hard. Office managers report into many different people. It can be the COO, it can be someone abroad, it could actually be another office manager. But if you have that personal network, you can kind of talk about suppliers, talk about any issues or concerns, what's worked well for them, what's not worked well for them. And sometimes, yeah, it's just good to chat to them, or maybe have a little moan if you're feeling really down to try and pick yourself up. Yeah.
Each week on the Office Manager Diaries, we like to share a tip with you on how you can excel in your office management role. This week, my tip is be prepared for every meeting and every eventuality as far as you possibly can be. For example, for every meeting I used to go to as an office manager, I'd prep at least 2 to 3 bullets of items to discuss or raise with suppliers, service providers, the building manager, the engineering team, the decorator, the project manager for our fit out company, cleaning company, my line manager, as well as members of my team if I managed people during that time. And if I didn't have enough to put down onto paper and they didn't either, is there really any point in having that meeting? So I would challenge that and try and get some time back there as well. In relation to other things and being prepared, it's about trying to have information and source information and put it at your fingertips. It's really important to understand and have access to things like your health and safety policies, and allow other people to know where they are, let them know where they are in case you get inspections. So maybe have a physical file of some of your policies and things there, so that if you do get inspected, you're prepared and you've got everything at hand ready to be seen. But also, your office lease, do you know when it expires? Do you know what your notice period is? Do you know what you pay per square foot? Do you know what you pay on rates and service charge and insurance and all these other bits of information that you can gather and pop into a spreadsheet or a database or an app, whatever it might be that you can access through your company, so that whenever you're challenged or asked for information on the office, or on when contracts and the lease and other things expire, you can give that information to the CEO, CTO, COO, whoever it might be, any of the C's and O's, really, really easily and simply, because you have prepared in advance and got it at your fingertips. That's my advice for this week, and I hope you enjoyed the episode. No, I love that, and I think networking was one of the tips that I shared recently on the podcast as well. So completely agree, which is why obviously we exist as well. So okay, so where do you see yourself in your career in the next few years? What's your ambition and what's driving that?
I don't know if it's quite clear for me. Recently, I've started to take on more HR projects. It's a very different pace to office management, and that's what I'm trying to navigate at the moment. But it is very exciting. For example, on Friday, I ran an offsite, and that was more around our culture and I actually really quite enjoyed it, although I'm a little bit introverted, so me standing up for the whole day and talking is probably not the funnest. Potentially, maybe, hopefully one day be a HR director, or maybe even a partner would be amazing. I also do get quite excited by very big projects, office moves and fit out. So I'm not sure where life will take me. I'm going to explore the HR piece, and I definitely want to give it a good go. And I've got a really great new manager who has experience in this space. But maybe if all else not fails, but if I want to go off somewhere differently, maybe within a larger organisation, maybe international, fitting out various offices, looking after various teams, although it sounds very stressful going from a small firm to a big firm. Yeah, so it's quite open, but it's definitely still within the office management or HR space.
I think, this is the nice thing about when you're working for a smaller company, because you can be in HR, you can be in office management, and you did procurement quite heavily at Berenberg, I know, as well, and you can be in accounts or IT if one wishes it. There's so many that you can still get your hands on and involved in. And culture, I think, sits quite well between the HR and the office manager roles. It just depends on the size of the company as to who's responsible for it, but generally they collaborate if there are departmental responsibilities there. So yeah, and well done you for standing up and doing an offsite, because I know you, and I know that would have been a moment. So yeah, another proud moment, I think, there, Emma. So to sum up then, what is it that you love about being in office management and the hybrid role that you're now in? And what really drives you? What really got you into this role? And what do you think it is about your personality or your skills that matches it well, and yeah, ultimately you love about it?
Well, this is why I said at the start, Hannah, this is why I owe you, because you were actually the one who got me into office management. I think when I met you, I remember the room, I remember seeing you there, and just how you spoke and how passionate you were about office management at that time. I was like, whoa, this woman is like a boss. She's a boss lady. So I think for that, I was super inspired by you at the time, and I still am. And I thought, yeah, this sounds cool. It's a natural progression for me to go from like receptionist into being your assistant at the time. And I even said this to the guys when I joined my current firm, was that you basically took me into every meeting with you. So I learned very quickly and just took so many notes. And that was a great experience for me. So I think that's kind of what got me excited about office management. And I've been very lucky to progress my career kind of throughout Berenberg and the firm that I'm at today. And I'm super grateful for those opportunities. And I think that makes me, when I have these new opportunities or I get given these new projects, that's what drives me forward and kind of makes me excited. I think going back to what I said before, I just like the diverseness, and I love project management. Whether that be a fit out or finding a new supplier or changing something within the office. I love project management, and I like seeing the impact that it has on the business and also the workplace as well.
I'm going to ask you a question that I can only ask you and none of my other podcast guests, because they've not been in the position you have. But I'm sure there's probably people listening who would love to know, given you've just said that, yes, we met and I hired you back then as, I think it was like office assistant or something was your title, wasn't it? I can't quite remember. But you were effectively my direct assistant PA, but also doing junior office management and covering reception from time to time when we had holidays and things there. You had a real sort of diverse role back then. What was it like working with me, for me? Because I'm sure, if you don't mind me asking you and putting you on the spot, because I didn't prep Emma on this one,
Oh, that's fine.
but as you mentioned at the end, I'm sure people would like to know.
Yeah, I mean, when I first met you, I was super inspired by you, and I still am. It was the role into I think it was operations assistant or office assistant. that transition into that role was a lot of learning for me quite quickly. So I think one time we had an event and we didn't have enough chairs in the meeting rooms, and I had to work out all these chairs, but I felt quite stressed at the start because it was all brand new to me, and I just got completely flustered. And you kind of sat me down and went through all this paperwork of all the different room sizes, all the different chairs, and we sorted it out, and I felt so much better afterwards. No, I really enjoyed working with you. I think in terms of your style and how you trained me up, I'm super grateful, because I feel like that excelled my career quicker and gave me insight into many different things. You always used to take me into different meetings, and you really invested the time in me, which I was super grateful for. Yeah, I mean, there were some stressful points. We worked a lot of weekends, I think some late nights as well. I just remember this piece of, like, on your desk there was a pile of paperwork, and I just remember this was like your whole to-do list on these pieces of paper. And I just remember used to looking over like, oh my God, I don't know if I ever want to be an office manager or an operations manager. And Hannah has so much work. And I just remember used to be like, I need to block my diary, I need to look through all this paperwork. And I was like, wow, how do you ever like get to this point? And I guess, I admired you. You always pushed for what you thought was right, or what you thought was the best idea. And he was always putting that forward to management, and I think it was a really good kickstart into my career. So I've been very lucky to be with some quite amazing people in my career, like working with you, Hannah, but also with some of the people at my current firm. I work very closely with the CEO and the CPO, so I'm very fortunate.
Didn't get too much juice there, people, but hopefully enough of an insight. I just remember, I mean, you were fantastic for me, because you did want to get into this, and I think you even said to me not long into starting that you were inspired and you were very grateful for the opportunity and things. You always, vocalize that. But I remember it wasn't long before I left, and it was just crazy, wasn't it? I was flying back and forth to Hamburg, meeting after meeting after meeting most days, and you would always make sure every day I ate. Do you remember?
Oh, did I?
What is it today that you want? Yeah, you would, sushi today, or pret with the chicken salad. Do you remember? I love that Italian chicken salad. And I always, obviously you did so much more work than just get my lunch, but I remember you would always just make sure every day that I ate, because there would be so many days where I wouldn't, or I would forget because it just went by. So I'm grateful for you and your support, and I'm really proud to see you and your growth and everything you've achieved. So it has been lovely to catch up. Thank you so much for being a guest on the Office Manager Diaries, Emma.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Hannah. Maybe one last juicy topic. I remember when we moved some of the office around, and you left me with the reins one weekend, and I forgot to move the printer. But I don't know how I didn't see it. And I remember when you came in on that Monday morning, and you sort of was like, what do you mean you couldn't see the printer? And I was like, oh my God, like, why couldn't I see this printer? And that was a tough moment for me. But a realization that good attention to detail.
Probably one of the only times you'd ever, let it down, as it were, if I can call it that. But yeah, I can't remember that, to be honest.
Oh.
You remember more than me, but I do remember leaving you to do a move. I think I was just like, you need to be thrown into the fire here, and maybe I had personal plans as well. I don't know. I remember we used to I took my dog in a lot. Do you remember that? My little dog running around, enjoying the office moves, and when she weed on the partner's carpet. Do you remember?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I might have kept that one a secret, but she weed. It wasn't Henrik's room. It was one of the other partners who I don't think's there anymore. But that really, really expensive carpet that wasn't in carpet tiles. It was rolled carpet. She weed on that. Yes, I was like, no one can ever know. Anyway, that's my diary. There we go. Well, yeah, thank you so much again, Emma. It's been really lovely to catch up, and I hope we will get that glass of wine or two very soon.
Definitely. Thanks, Hannah.
This episode is sponsored by the Office Management Portal, our free online membership platform aimed at connecting, supporting and empowering office managers in a simple-to-use, all-in-one self-service resource. You can sign up right now at www.theofficemanager.com. theofficemanagementportal.com and click the sign up button in the top right. If you want to upgrade your account to our premium membership at any time for unlimited downloadable templates and monthly expert masterclasses, use the code THEOMD for 25% off. That's THEOMD for Office Manager Diaries for 25% off. Thank you for listening.